Good evening, everybody. Welcome into the Towson Sports Network here in CQ Arena for the George McGinty alumni meet here. It is Towson, LIU, North Carolina, and Pittsburgh. And speaking of Towson alumni, I'm joined by two of them, Zoe Packard and the Hall of Famer Tandy Knight. And Tandy, you were here last week when Towson put up their best score in a couple of years. It was a 196-15 over GW. It's been something that's building. The team has just gotten consistently better and better and better. And as good as that score was, that wasn't their best performance.
No, they were missing two of their top vaulters, one of their strong bar teams, one of their strong floor teams. The depth on this team is amazing, and we're going to unfortunately have to see that tonight because several gymnasts, thanks to COVID, have to go into quarantine. So we're going to see some fill-in routines again, but I challenge anyone to figure out which routines those are. That's how deep this team is, the difficulty level, the creativity, it's just there. And last Friday, I called it before the meet even started. I said, something's happening tonight, I can feel it. And I think what it was is the team realizes they are that good. I think that was the only thing holding them up, was them believing in themselves. Their coaches believe in them, we believe in them, and I think last week they finally understood, oh, we are that good.
And Zoe, you were here as well watching the meet. Just what did you think seeing the team perform like that? I mean, do you agree with Tandy that there was just something in the air that this team knew that they were going to score that high?
Yeah, this team is just so special, and I knew before the season even started that they were going to do things this year. And just to be here in CQ with everything going on and being here for the first time since I graduated last year and when everything got cut short, and they did that when I was here, it was just so special to be back. And we haven't gone a 196, I believe, since 2018. And it's only the start for this team. I have no doubt that they'll be right back up at 196 very soon, if not tonight.
And, I mean, you mentioned it. It was a 196-15, but the team had to count a fall, I believe it was in bars, and we've seen, like I said, we've seen the ability of this team just continually get better and better and better. And that's something that's been just really exciting to see, both as a broadcaster and just a fan of gymnastics as a whole, to see Towson coming back and being this strong.
Yeah, I mean, last season was a shortened season due to COVID. It was Jay and Ashley's first season. They made such a turnaround last year, and then it was cut short. And my concern was, are they going to forget that movement they started last year? Are they going to forget? But they haven't forgotten. These ladies are ready to go. We are a young team, a lot of freshmen in the lineup, and it is great to see because they are coming in and ready to go. And I'm just so excited for the rest of this season, and I really hope, I don't think that 196 is the only one we're going to see this season. I think these ladies are finally understanding that this is where they should be.
Zoe, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago that that last week was your first time back in CQ since the shutdown, and I know that when we got up here, we saw a package that was sitting on a chair, and we're like, what is this? And it was funny, we didn't think about it, but you never were able to get your senior gift last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure that was an added bonus of you being back here.
Yeah, it was definitely so surreal. I mean, we were all devastated when season got cut short last year, but honestly, the weekend before, we had beat GW at one meet, and then the next meet we went and beat Maryland. So, I mean, I don't know. Of course, having a senior night would have been amazing, but that's a pretty darn good way to end your career, beating those two teams.
Exactly.
And the last time I was actually in CQ, I was fortunate enough to win the George McGinty Award. So that was one of my favorite memories at being at a Towson gymnast. And now that I get to be back and another lady's going to get it tonight, I'm super excited to figure out who it is. And it's just going to be a good night. I can feel it.
You see, you teased it now. A little bit later, we'll talk about who is going to be the second annual winner of the George McGinty Alumni Award. I will say that it is somebody that has had a drastic impact on the program. I'm going to not say too much more because I don't want to give it away. But let's look back to what's going on here tonight. So for anyone who isn't aware of this, is the first time watching Towson Gymnastics, here's how it's going to work. We are going to be covering all Towson events as a whole from start to finish, and then when Towson is not competing, we will do our best to get to everything that is going on. I do want to say that this is a pretty interesting circumstance here. There is a team here that is fresh to Eagle this year. It's LIU. It is their very first year of competing in Division I athletics. They added the program back in March. I believe it was just before the shutdown. The team announced that gymnastics would be a sponsored sport at LIU. We've seen some really interesting growth from that program, really, ever since the two schools merged. It's created quite a unique circumstance that we see the two schools having become one now Division I program, and really they are on a chance to compete here tonight in their second
Hey Tiger
Division I
fans, our first rotation is vault.
I have to
vault
say,
is
I
an
love
event that
this.
requires speed, quickness,
Most
and explosive
gymnastics
power.
programs are being
This
cut.
event is a fast one, so be sure
Men's
to keep your
programs
eyes
in
on the
particular,
runway.
but women's
There
as well.
are 3
and
ways
the
to enter
fact
the
that
vault table:
LIU
forward, sideways, and backwards. Each
was
vault
willing
has a
to
different start value, with the most difficult being out of a 10.0.
add a
We need to
program like
maintain
this
a
is
tight
just
body
amazing.
before and
So
after
I'm
touching
excited
the
to see
table,
them
and strive
tonight,
to maintain
and I'm so happy
motionless
they're
or
here.
stick the landing at the end.
So joining
Even from
LIU
home,
and
when you
Towson
see us
tonight,
present at the end
it
of the
is
runway,
the University
clap
of North
along with the rest
Carolina
of the team as we
and
run toward the
Pittsburgh. It
table.
is
Let's go Tigers.
some teams that we've seen quite a few times here against Towson. It will be the 4 teams. Towson will start on vault, UNC will start on bars, LIU will start on beam, and on floor will obviously be Pitt to begin. Something we'll hopefully be able to see here for the first time later on is Towson has a certain vaulter in their rotation that may or may not have had a pretty cool story written about them in the Baltimore Sun, may have made some national headlines throughout the NCAA gymnastics world. We'll get to her in just a moment when she steps up.
Yep.
Starting off on vault for Towson is going to be Jenna Wheats.
We're already getting started on floor. Very nice double tuck to start.
This is Emily Lazewski from Pittsburgh. Heading over to vault now, here is Wheats.
Opens up with a beautiful Yurchenko layout full. Pike down slightly, it'll be a little deduction. She is such a strong vaulter, and I've heard a rumor that she's training an even more difficult vault, so maybe we'll see that later in the season.
When we talk about training more difficult, I mean, that's been the story of this Towson team, really, as we head over to bars. The team's just gotten more and more difficulty in every routine.
Yeah, and it's so good to see. I will say for many years, and this is across the NCAA, we were seeing these cookie cutter routines. They would do the bare minimum to have a routine start from a 10-0, and we were losing the creativity, we were losing the difficulty, and I love what Jay and Ashley have done with this team because they are putting it out there. And you know what? Bigger risk, bigger reward. Yes, we might have some falls here or there and, you know, some stumbles and maybe not as many stuck landings, but I'd rather see that than boring routines.
Head on over to Nikki Borkowski now.
Beautiful vault, great form in the air, nice amplitude off of the table, and also great distance. Slight hop on the landing. That is one area where I'd like to see Towson kind of just get a little better, sticking a few more landings.
But as you mentioned, as the difficulty improves,
Yeah.
it gets tougher to stick
It's
those
tougher.
landings.
It sure
and so
does.
that is something that will come. And I mean, Borkowski's only a junior, so
Exactly.
she's got plenty of time to work on that.
And, you know, she really kind of had a breakout year last year as a sophomore and has continued that this year, not only in her gymnastics, but I think as a leader of this team, and really just kind of taking on that responsibility to have the team understand that, you know, we are that good and this is what we should be doing.
Now waiting at the end of the runway is Ali Zolke for Towson, and this was somebody that I was teasing just a moment ago. She had a great story written about her in the Baltimore Sun. She performed a vault a couple of weeks ago that had never been performed
Yes,
at any
never been
level of
performed in the NCAA. The vault is named after her, which is not easy to do. You can create unique skills, but you have to compete them in a certain type of competition in order for them to get named after you and put into the code of points. So she actually has 2 vaults named after her, which is insane. That will live on in, perpetuity for her.
I believe I saw her practicing what she called the Zolke 2.
Yes. We'll see what
Earlier
she's going to
today.
do here tonight. Great. So what's unique about her vault is instead of a round-off entry and going onto the vaulting table backwards, she does a front handspring entry, and then basically for us old-timers does a souk full off of it. So when you slow it down, it's easier to see. In full motion, it's kind of hard to figure out what she's doing. That was great, because during the touch, she had a little goof up, so I was a little nervous for her, but she really pulled it off here.
And as good as she was the first time she pulled it off, I mean, that was even better.
Yeah.
Because this time, the first time she landed, her chest was a little too far down, a little bit.
Took a big step to the side.
Exactly,
yeah.
but this
That
time
one was
only
a little
one
cleaner.
step back. It was
Yeah.
a lot stronger of a vault. And as she performs it more, we're going to see it get better and better.
Exactly. She'll have more confidence every time she does it.
So we'll head over to the floor now as we await some more action going on.
And that's Pitt on floor, just finishing up that routine.
Up next for Towson is going to be Lauren Bolin, one of the 2 Tigers competing in the all-around tonight, the other being Cami Vitoff.
Wow. Oh, so close to a
Almost
stick.
got what
Just
you
a
wanted.
little stutter step. Great vault. That one actually even had more amplitude. Really great form in the air. Nice and laid out. Really didn't pike down at all. That should score really well.
Head over to beam now. This is LIU. And Tandy, you were talking about it before the broadcast, that with a team in their first year of existence, you don't necessarily know what to expect. They didn't have the best performance last week, only scoring in the 190s. But some of the difficulty of the routines that we're seeing from LIU is really impressive to see from a
Yeah.
team that's in their second competition ever.
I mean, I'll have to be honest. My thought was they would look more like a Division II school in terms of their level of difficulty. But when I was watching warm-ups, I was like, wow, they're throwing some big level skills out there. And honestly, first year competing, scoring a 190 in your first meet, that's not bad.
Well, I'm sure it
There are
has a little
probably
bit
some
something.
other older programs that wish they could do that.
There's certainly some name recognition going on. Randy Lane, the head coach of LIU. And
Yes.
I mean, that's about as good of a coach as you could want for your first
Exactly.
year.
Yeah.
Up for Towson is Vitoff now.
Wow. Woo! So last week, Cami didn't do her 1.5. She did it this week. Super high off of the vaulting table. Beautiful twist in the air. Almost stuck that. And that is a hard vault to stick. It's a blind landing. That should, I can't wait to see this score. That should be a good one.
I mean, you saw how Jay Ramirez just
Yeah.
went nuts as soon as she landed.
Yeah. So that vault starts from a 10-0 start value. It's one of the few vaults in NCAA that does. All the other vaults we've seen so far have started from a 9.95. So she has that extra 5/10 right there. And we will try to give you scores. Sometimes it is difficult for us to see them from where we're sitting.
I believe it was a 9.85.
It looks like a 9.85 for Cami, and I'm sorry we haven't seen some of the other vault scores. We'll try to catch you up on those.
Amy Stewart is ready now for Towson. She is anchoring tonight.
Oh, wow. Amy doing your Yurchenko full. So Amy, vault isn't necessarily one of the events that she would be doing. She is helping out tonight, filling in. And I'm super excited to see that because she helped out another time on vault and only did a layout Yurchenko. So I'm excited to see that she's already upgraded it herself. And she's not in the usual vault lineup.
I believe that was the first time Amy's competed a full-on vault for Towson ever.
Wow. Well, it was great.
It was great. That's super exciting.
You gotta love when your backup vaulter is throwing a vault like that.
On over to UNC now.
Really nice dismount off bars.
So I believe Stewart got a 9.7 for her vault. So round off the Tigers'
great
evening on the
score.
first apparatus.
Oh, that was actually a beautiful leap, but she just couldn't stay on. It's a beautiful extension in height. Oh. And this is where kind of the lack of experience and, you know, things are contributing. 2 falls on beam.
But I know you preach it every week that it doesn't matter what happens if you fall, if you don't fall, because you never know what the rest of your team's
You
going
never
to do.
know. I mean, we're now looking at 3 falls, but this routine might have to count. You just don't know. And she's clearly having an off day. That happens to the best of us. Everyone has had one of these days.
For those of you who aren't gymnasts out there, the balance beam is only a couple inches wide, so these gymnasts make it look really easy. I promise you that being someone who didn't participate in gymnastics when I was younger, no way.
You didn't,
No,
Brandon? Really?
I would not be able to even stand on this. I would have a hard time walking back and forth, let alone aerials and switch leaps and all these other things.
Yes, well, it's 4 inches wide, 4 feet high, and about 16 feet long.
Right, and it looks a lot easier than it is because the gymnasts are really incredible athletes.
I will have to say it was maybe about 10 years or so after I retired. I went into a friend of mine's gym. She owns a gym, and hopped on the beam thinking no problem. And as soon as I got up there, I went, oh my gosh, what was I thinking all of those years? This is ridiculous, and I immediately got off.
Well, it's funny. We had Jenna Wheats on this week. We have a podcast here at Towson, Tigercast Beyond the Game. It's available wherever you can get your podcasts. We had Jenna Wheats on this weekend, and she was talking about what it was like during the shutdown, that she wasn't able to get into the gyms at all.
Yeah.
And she said, having been out of a gym for a couple of months straight, you just lose your ability to know where you are in the air.
Yeah.
You think about that on vault, on bars, on floor, but even on beam, you lose that ability by not having it go and repeating it every day.
Yeah, I always used to tell people when they were like, when's your off season? Gymnasts don't have an off season. We train. There's never time out of the gym. Because of that reason, the body awareness is so key in this sport that, you know, a week or 2 off and you're having to relearn things. So I can't even imagine. It's really remarkable what these ladies have been able to do, considering they lost so much training time this year.
But I think about it in a running standpoint. And they always say if you're a distance runner, when you're running, you know, half marathons, whatever it is, if you lose a week of training, it's the equivalent of 3 weeks is what you lose. And that's got to be something similar here with gymnasts. Just the amount of time that you lose is almost impossible to make up, especially when you're forced to be shut down like everybody was. I think the only thing with that circumstance is everybody lost the same amount of time.
Yeah, that is true.
I believe we have Olivia Miller of Pittsburgh on floor going right now.
With some great throwback music.
Mm-hmm.
This reminds me of my days here at Towson. Finishing up with a very nice high double pike. Definitely took a couple steps on the landing. That'll be a deduction. Pitt's had an interesting season so far. We had a meet at Pitt and they looked phenomenal, but then they've had other meets where they can't even put up a full lineup. And I think a lot of teams are struggling with this right now, you know, between the regular injuries and illnesses that you usually get through a season, but then you add the COVID layer on top of it. And some of these teams are having trouble putting up a full lineup because of that.
I mean, you think about it, no team is immune. If you look at
No.
what's been happening across all of college sports, I mean, basketball teams have shut down once or twice in almost every league. You've had now gymnastics teams, either gymnasts being out with contact tracing, and then you talk about, you know, the typical injuries that'll happen just because gymnastics is so tough on the body.
Sure is.
So Towson only with, I believe it was either 10 or 12 gymnasts available tonight.
Yeah.
So you think about that and then what these gymnasts are doing. You mentioned that some of them are filling in. You know, that could be the case with any of the 3 other schools too, that we could have people filling in on events they don't normally perform.
Exactly.
And they're expected to, you know, to roll with it.
Expected to do it. That's right. Well, while we're waiting for this last, I think it's the last floor team, I'd just like to give a shout out. This is the alumni meet. I'd like to say hi to my assistant coach, Linda Filbert, who's watching, another Hall of Famer, Nancy Kearns, and Kristen Prezzuti Callahan, who was the volunteer assistant coach last year, Vicky Vasecki, who's getting ready to give birth any day now. Hope you're doing well, and Sammy Sewell. Thanks for watching, ladies.
So this is Jordan Cesarini on floor for Pitt.
That was a nice, long, tumbling pass. Not a ton of difficulty in it, but very unique. Double tuck, little low on the landing. Fun routine.
So it looks like there was a conference over on the balance beam. Now someone is competing.
Looks like we're replaying Amy Stewart's vault. First time she's throwing Yurchenko full here at Towson. Very nice series on beam.
So we talk about the score from last week for Towson being as high as it was. Tigers had a 48-8-5 last week on vault. This week it is a 48-7. So not terribly far off, and it's not like the team can't make up that little bit of point differential in the next 3 events.
Yeah, it's a great start on vault for them. And vault is an event that has just been getting better and better every season for them. There was a time where I'd almost prefer not to watch vault
I remember,
for Towson.
what, 3, 4, 5 years ago, we would always say that, you know, the Tigers are really strong on other events,
Yes.
but vault was always their weakest. And
we wouldn't even talk about vault.
we can't even say that anymore because the Tigers
No.
have really gotten that much better in the vault.
They sure have.
And I can tell you they're going to be even better next season. I know that there are several 1.5s in the works right now, so don't think vault will ever be considered one of our worst events ever again. Not with Jay as the head coach.
I mean, I have to be honest, at least this season so far, I don't think they have a weak event per se.
No.
If anything, I'd say bars, but only just because they haven't been quite as consistent on bars. The difficulty is there, though, on bars, for sure.
Jay Ramirez always talks about we want to have that meet where we hit on all 6. And bars so far has really been that one event that it's been 5 of 6 have nailed it.
Yep.
But then the 6th one, maybe not so much. Maybe they'll miss a handstand or they'll under rotate, or we do have to count that fall. So that's, I mean, like you said, there isn't really a weak event, but that's the event they probably have been putting the most effort into improving because of just what's been happening this season.
And again, they have upped the difficulty level on bars. They are doing major release moves, huge dismounts, beautiful transitions from high bar to low bar. So again, bigger risk, but eventually it'll be the bigger reward.
And that was Trinity Macy on floor for Pitt to round things off. And I believe that will take care of our first rotation here from CQ Arena. Scores are coming in, but we'll take a break here on the Towson Sports Network. Early season jitters here. A little bit of a goof up here. We had a couple more routines left for LIU, so we want to make sure that everyone gets to see them here. Looks like we had our cameras go to break, thinking we also were at break here, but there we go. Now our cameras.
Beautiful
with it.
front aerial to a split jump. Flip-flop layout. Feel a little deduction there on the landing. Beautiful switch that gives her extra bonus. This gymnast has a beautiful line, very elegant. Setting up for her dismount. Flip-flop into a tucked 1.5 twist. That's a unique dismount. Blind landing.
Now
It was a pretty solid routine.
Now another gymnast performing, and we'll show you the routine in just a minute. The dismount was pretty impressive. Here is the start of the routine.
Very unique mount, which I love to see. Handstand into a front walkover, right into her jump series. Flip-flop layout, solid landing. Front aerial to a double stag. Round off 1.5 dismount, nice landing. Strong finish on beam for LIU. They definitely had some difficulties earlier on in the event, but they finished strong.
Talk about difficulties. I believe the person that fell rounded in the 7.5 range.
Oh,
If
yeah.
I had seen, I mean, that's unfortunately what you're going to expect with a
She
routine
had like
that-
4 falls.
right, with a routine that falls that many times, but at the same time, I mean, the team has performed fairly well so far.
No, I give LIU some major credit. This being their first year of being a part of Division I gymnastics, this year of all years to
I
be
know.
your first year. So I am sure this team is going to go places. They're just getting started, so would not count them out whatsoever. And beam is no easy event to start on by
No.
any means.
I believe this is Allison Lapp here for LIU.
Great series. And I just want to point out to some of us older gymnasts from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, yes, she is wearing beam shoes, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice side aerial there. Nice round off 1.5 to finish.
Yep.
Again, the more they compete, the more confident they're going to get. So we're just going to see them keep rising every meet.
They haven't even had time to really build a team chemistry and
Mhm.
all of that yet, so.
When you think about the teams that are in Eagle, you think of really the blue bloods of NC State, North Carolina,
Yep.
what Towson is becoming. LIU is really not that far off. And for us to be saying this about a first-year program is incredible. And so now we are definitively finished our first rotation. A few of the scores have come in. We'll get you updated on those in just a few minutes. But for now, we'll step aside here in CQ Arena after rotation 1.
Hey Tiger fans, our next rotation is the uneven bars. You'll notice that each routine requires different combinations of skills of different types of skills. We will be swinging, changing directions, releasing the bar and catching it, all while moving back and forth between the 2 bars. We must face backwards at least once and have 2 different flight skills in each routine, and of course look for us to stick the dismount. Cheer loud from home and let's go Tigers.
Well, fans, if you would like to join us here in CQ Arena, unfortunately we can't have you in person, but what you can do is purchase a cardboard cutout and send a picture in of you or your favorite good boys and girls like you see on the screen. Do us a favor, give Josh Behringer a call. You can see his number on your screen. We'd love to have you here, obviously in person, but this is what we believe to be the next best thing as we move forward through this COVID shutdown. So through the first rotation, Towson with a 48-8 in first place, followed by UNC at a 48-7-7-5. Pitt not far behind, a 48-5-5-0, and then LIU a couple points back at 46-9-5. So we're getting ready here for our first member of the Tigers to go on bars. This is Lauren Bolin.
Opens with a Tkachev. Overshoot. Hits the handstand. Giant full. Right into a double tuck. Stuck landing. That is the way you start off bars. Old Faithful, as they like to call her, because she's so consistent.
Lauren is just one of those gymnasts where you can put her in any spot in the lineup and she's going to deliver every single time.
Love it. And over on floor, opening with a front to double tuck.
This is Amanda Liu from LIU.
Nice jump series. Double pike. A couple steps out of that will be a deduction. And this is a trend you're going to start seeing a lot in the NCAA, is just 2 tumbling passes. You're not required to do 3. If you can get all your difficulty with 2 passes, that's great. And especially with such a short preseason and training time for these ladies, for a lot of them, it's just a safer way to do floor right now. Floor takes a lot out of you. A lot of these ladies are still building up their endurance. And so it's just something you're seeing more and more.
Now waiting Tess Zientek on bars as she professes her favorite event.
And it looks like Lauren went 9.625. I feel like that score's a little low. Free hip hop right to a front giant. Hits the handstand on that overshoot. Another handstand. Right into a double tuck. Wow, slight hop on the landing. What I love about Tess, our kind of sole senior here, is her form. Her legs are glued together, beautiful toe point, straight legs throughout the entire routine. You don't see a form break from her.
I mean, that may have been her best bars routine this year.
That was beautiful. And on beam, North Carolina, flip-flop layout, little check on her balance there.
Slight wobble. It's really exciting. We have 4 teams that are in the Eagle here tonight.
Yeah.
So all teams are going to be competing against each other all season long. So it's a great time to compare all 4 teams.
Yeah.
That's something that's pretty different. I feel like we always have Eagle teams here, but it's never a quad meet with 3 other Eagle teams. That makes it pretty unique in and of itself.
And I also just think the conference is getting so much better. Everyone's stepping up their game and making every other team even better. So I definitely think we're a conference to watch. A nice 1.5 to finish off on beam too.
Tessie and Tech with a 9.75 on bars.
So I didn't watch bars the first rotation, or at least I didn't see the scores. I don't know if the judges are scoring low, but I feel like that was actually a little low for Tess too. Oh gosh darn it.
This is Sarah Giroux here for Towson.
And Sarah had the same problem last week. I watched her in warm-ups and touch, and she didn't miss one. So,
unfortunately, that's just the way it goes sometimes. You can be
Yeah.
as perfect can be,
Her-
and then it's just, you're only as good as this time, unfortunately.
That's right.
Whether it's a little bit too early in the rotation, too late in the rotation, or you just are off in the air, whatever it is, there's just so many different variables that could lead to that.
And she's going to do what she did last week, which is actually start the routine over. And last week she fell on it again. This week I'm confident she's going to catch it.
So here's Sarah Giroux again.
Yep. And that might be all she needed for the rest of the season to get through. You just got to get that one over with in competition.
First one's always the hardest, right?
Yep. And watch that dismount. Oh, that's something I've never seen her miss. It's a full-in dismount, so high above the bar. She sticks it almost every time I watch her do it. And again, this is a high-level routine. So once she gets that confidence and hits that clean every time, that's a 9.85, 9.9 bar routine easily.
Heading over to vault, here is Pittsburgh.
Nice tuck full. A little step on the landing, but I'm sure they'll be happy to put a vault on their feet.
Amy Stewart getting ready for Towson here. And Tandy, looking at the first rotation through bars, I think you are right. The judges may be judging a little bit more harshly. I can't imagine that UNC really ever has that kind of score. I mean, we've seen them throughout the years.
Yeah.
They've been consistently high on everything.
And that actually makes me feel a little better. I mean, as long as they're consistently scoring low, I don't like it, but as long as it's consistent, then
But at the
that's
same
fine.
time, it's consistent, which means the judges are doing their jobs. They're just a little higher expectations.
You know, some judges are tougher, you know, some are a little more lenient, which tends to be the case in NCAA, but, you know, not all of them are.
Giroux with a 9.15 on her routine, so that would be the one Towson would love to be able to drop today. Now Stewart's ready.
Beautiful pike Jaeger. Oh, such a floaty pack salto. I just love her pack salto. A little mess up there. Shouldn't really be a deduction. She covered it well. Setting up for a big dismount. Double lay. Oh, over-rotated. Darn. I wish I had that problem. Obviously, we would have liked a stuck landing. That'll definitely be probably a 2/10 deduction, but a beautiful bar routine. Amy has such great form.
Heading on over to UNC on beam here.
UNC has really been phenomenal on beam this season. Nice round off 1.5. Slight hop on the landing, but I'm sure they'll be sticking those very soon.
And while we're waiting for our next Tiger bar routine, just another shout out to some other alumni checking in. Sherry Edmondson Hubenthal, Shauna Thompson Case, Brittany Russell, and someone from over the pond in London. It's midnight there. Erin Shanley Terneski. Hi, say hi to the boys for me. Amanda Pratt checking in. Good to hear from you. And several comments about Towson's, what they're calling throwback leotards tonight. Maybe it's in honor of all of us older alumni.
So it looks like it was a 9.65, if I see correctly. A 9.6 possibly. There it is, a 9.6 for Stewart.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that score is coming from.
So here's Vitov.
Free hip. Beautiful Ginger, so high. Right into an overshoot. Hits that handstand. Big dismount. Oh, beautiful, full in.
That's what's so great about this team is even after a fall, they can count on the people coming up after that, and they just know how to hit even under pressure.
Yep.
I gotta say, watching Jay during the routine is almost as entertaining as watching the routine itself. I mean, he's every single part of the routine, just losing his mind, losing his mind. And then
He's right there with them.
oh yeah, he's right up in it. And then as soon as she sticks the landing, I mean, he just goes crazy.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of Coach Filbert. He had some fist pumpy moves, and every now and then we could get him to do some kind of split jump. It was awesome.
You gotta tell Jay that Coach Filbert did that. Maybe he'll do it.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Well, let's see.
What do you think, Zoe? We get him to do it?
I think it's a good idea.
I think I can find some video footage of Coach Filbert doing it, so maybe that'll help.
A 9.825 for Vitov. So we'll head to
Good
the
score,
anchor.
but again, too low, in my opinion.
We'll head to the anchor here for Towson. It's Ali Zolke.
Oh, goodness. That was a huge release move that she does. She caught it and then just, my guess is one hand fingertipped it. Gymnasts wear what are called dowel grips. So the things they wear over their hands have a little rod in them that helps them hook over the bar. And if you don't get that dowel over the bar, it'll a lot of times push you back off.
So the tough part here is Towson's going to have to count a fall.
They're going to have to count a fall. Beautiful pack salto. Giant full, right into a double tuck, stakes the landing, because right now every 10th is counting.
So it was a strong second half to a routine there as Towson
Yeah.
now finishes up on bars. A couple other teams still competing. LIU on floor, UNC on beam.
I believe this is UNC's anchor. Beautiful flick lay. You can tell she's definitely comfortable up there. Nice flexibility on those leaps. Good front aerial. She looks solid. Nice full turn, finishing up on toe. Those full turns can be tricky
I know.
sometimes too, I have to admit.
It's usually the death of a routine.
Nice switch side. Finishing up with a side aerial to a full and a stuck landing. That's going to be a big score for UNC.
Yeah, beautiful routine.
Second rotation, Pitt finishing with a 47.75 as of right now on vault. We did see Towson score go up by a 1/10 of a point, so we're not entirely sure if that will be the final score that Pitt got, but as of right now, that is what they received. And Zoe, you were right. That was the anchor for UNC, and it's, when you watch that, it's no surprise why Liz Colton's the anchor.
I believe she's gone 9.95 a couple times this season.
And so that leaves just LIU left to compete here for the second rotation.
Yeah, and UNC's last beam routine just went 9.925. She's a very consistent in the 9.9s gymnast.
Having watched that routine, you can definitely see why.
Beautiful routine.
This is Charlie Cohen for LIU.
One and a half to a front tuck. Really nice height on the jump series.
Floor is always so fun to watch because you really get to see the gymnasts and their personality comes out and they just have fun with it.
She's been smiling this whole routine. I love it. Finishes with a double tuck, very low landing, but beautiful walk out of it as if she had planned that all along. I love that.
I think what impresses me the most about LIU, you look at their roster, it's exclusively freshmen and sophomores on this team. And we were talking, we would think a lot of them would be from, the New York, Long Island, tri-state area.
That's what I figured, yeah.
No, we've got gymnasts from England, France, Australia, the Netherlands, Hawaii, all over the United States. This
Yeah.
is really going to be an impressive team in a couple of years when they have some experience at the Division I level.
Exactly.
So we are through 2 rotations here from CQ Arena. We'll head to break, get ready for our 3rd rotation coming up.
Hey Tiger fans, our next rotation is balance beam. Standing 4 feet tall and only 4 inches wide, this event requires strength and focus while showing off our tumbling skills, both in the air and on the beam. Our routines will include turns, leaps, and dance elements as well, and will last no longer than 90 seconds. Wobbles and balance checks need to be avoided, as they will always result in a deduction. Fans, even though we are concentrating and you are at home, we need you now more than ever to cheer us on. Let's go, Tigers!
And a big thank you to Emerson Hurst for that little explainer there. Tigers up on beam to begin. They waste no time getting things started. At least they will not waste much time. Jumping the gun here, getting a little antsy.
Just finishing up, touch.
Just getting a little antsy. So the Tigers will be on beam. LIU will be on vault, Pitt on bars, and UNC on floor. After the first rotation, UNC has taken the lead by a full point, currently at a 97.85. Tigers in second at a 96.75. Pitt not far behind, the 96.3, and then LIU brings up the rear at a 92.85.
Looks like they're getting some pumping each other up there, and I'd just like to say hi to some more alumni checking in. Hall of Famer Leanne Williams, hi, say hi to the girls for me. And Nancy Green Herco, thanks for watching.
So for the Tigers, the first gymnast up will be Lauren Bolin.
So they're going into beam knowing they're counting a fall on bars. Hopefully what we see is them forgetting bars even happen and just focusing on what I consider to be their strongest event.
Lauren Bolin in the leadoff spot once again. I think she was born to be the leadoff.
Talking about leading off, she leads off in 3 of the 4 different events. The only one not leading being vault.
Nice front toss. A little short on that split jump. Good switch leap split jump there. Lauren's honestly one of the hardest workers, I think, on this team. We used to do beam almost every single day together. Finishes up with a gainer full off the side, stuck landing.
Nice.
Nice way to start.
Going back to Kate Green here on floor for UNC.
Round off 1.5 twist, front layout, little stumble on the landing. Finish the routine.
Trinity Macy getting set on bars.
Really nice Jaeger. To overshoot, hit the handstand dead on. Dismount, double layout, wow. Definitely peeled off a little early, pulled that around. Pretty impressive, actually. I'd like to say hi to another Hall of Famer watching tonight, Gabby Lenarducci-Frieza. Hey, Gabs. Tell Isabella I said hi.
Bolin starting off with a 9.7 for Towson on the beam, and now here's Ali Zolke. In the meantime, we head over to
Quick
vault.
vault, lay out your Chenko. Real low on the landing there.
Now we go to Ali Zolke.
Allie being just a freshman, she's really come in and is already contributing on 3 events, and that's really big as a freshman. Solid flick lay. Good switch leap. One thing I love about watching her do beam is she doesn't really pause. There are some gymnasts who take a second and she just goes straight into everything she does. And another skill that's very unique to her, she does a side aerial and switches legs mid-air.
That gives her extra bonus. That's an E-level skill.
1.5 for a dismount. She's going to be really happy with that after bars. Coming back, that's one of the best feelings you can have coming back from a fall.
And that was pretty good of a routine,
That was
too.
a beautiful routine.
Not many things you could even think, okay, maybe duction here. No, really outside of a little jump on the dismount, there really wasn't much that she missed.
No.
I have a feeling she's going to be a solid performer for us over the next 4 years.
Double pike, little low on the landing. Really pretty ending to her routine there.
So you just saw it on your screen. It's always interesting to me. In COVID times, gymnasts are expected to wear their masks anytime they're not performing. And it's always interesting to see how the teams handle the mask situation, whether it's somebody having essentially just a long pair of tongs to grab the masks, or the gymnasts just put them down at the end of the runway, or whatever
Every
it
team
is.
seems to have their own. I saw another team, they were putting it on a clipboard and then walking around. At the last home meet,
almost like a
someone had a
waiter.
bucket, you know.
There's Cami Vitoff, sophomore. Cami's going to do a triple series. Very good. Just a slight wobble, but nothing too crazy. Good full turn. Beautiful switch leap. Just a small bobble at the end there. I really think Towson owes a lot of their beam team from Ashley. Ashley's worked so tirelessly hard on just getting their confidence up and hitting routine after routine, and I think Ashley really deserves a lot of credit for what they've been able to do over the past few meets.
Yeah. I think the chemistry between Ashley and Jay is it's fun to watch. They are fun. I love the little videos they'll post throughout the week and the silly little things they do. Because especially in a time of COVID right now, any chance you can get to put a smile on someone's face or a little laugh, it's worth it.
Think about it, Zoe. You were part of really what Jay and Ashley have offered to the team. You can certainly speak to it. I mean, Tandy and I, we've seen it just from the sidelines, but you were really a part of seeing how close this team could become and how well everybody could mesh and gel together. And it's been a lot of fun to watch.
It's almost so hard to be up here. I wish I could be down there with them on the floor. I still feel so much personally connected to all of them. I still talk to almost all of them every few weeks. And I just know that they have so much potential, and I'm so excited to see where Jay and Ashley take the program.
That was a great last pass there from Shaylin St. Bryce for UNC.
Nice double pike. So over on bars. Looks
like we got Jenna Wheat starting her beam routine. Nice switch sleep, layout, step
Love
out,
that
split
combination.
jump. Great way to get bonus in one swing. Beautiful front aerial. Jenna is, again, just one of those natural kids who can just get up on the beam and do her job and not make a big deal out of it. Beautiful flick lay. Gonna set up for the dismount here. Side area to a full stuck
Nice.
landing. That's how you do it.
What's becoming impressive with Jenna is that we've seen her growth, even through this year, that she's been really swapping with Emerson Hurst and where they are in the lineup and who's performing where. As good as she was last week, this was just as good today.
That's what I love. Every one of her routines is exactly the same, and it's so close to perfection. Whether the judges scored that way or not, that we can't control. But Jenna just keeps going up every week, doing exactly what she needs to do. And she's just so beautiful to watch.
Hannah Nam here on floor for UNC.
Looks like we got a 9.85 for Jenna on our last beam routine.
Emerson Hurst is about to be up at Towson. We've seen a couple of different ways that she gets onto the beam. I'm interested to see which it will be. And it looks like
Yeah, she started out the season with a press handstand into a reverse planche. It's kind of a throwback to like the 80s. But has since kind of watered that down to just a simple way to get on the beam, which, you know, whatever works for her.
I certainly can't say anything. The first time I saw her compete it was, you know, unfortunately she takes the fall there. The first time I saw her really compete that was at the scrimmage meet that the team had earlier this season. And I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, how strong is she? Because the amount of bodily control that she has to hold it for that long is just so impressive.
And a very uncharacteristic fall on that series for Emerson. I think it even surprised her. And she can do that skill in her sleep, so.
Finish up with the dismount here.
Oh, and finally sticks the landing. That's the only problem she's had in the past few meets, is just not sticking that landing, so it's all right. I know she's disappointed, but you know, again, it's such a strong team. You're going to have a mistake here or there, and this is what builds character. This is what builds a team.
The good news is the team isn't expected to have their best meet on February 19th. The best meets are supposed to come in March when you get to the Eagle Championships, or if you end up going farther as the team to the regionals.
Exactly.
That's what you want to have your best competition on.
Exactly, yep.
So it looks like Pitt is finished over on bars, so we just have Towson on beam and UNC on floor at this point.
Nice double pike.
You can't see this on camera, but her entire team was doing that little snapping choreography with her. It was really cute. Really nice front to 2.5 twist. choreography. Finished the routine really strong.
Strong routine from Brianna Greenlow. Emerson Hurst with a 9-1 on floor.
Beam.
Excuse me, on beam.
That's okay. It's Friday night.
It is Friday night. It's been a long week. You don't know what day is what. COVID's
It's
taking its toll
COVID.
on everybody.
I know. It's COVID. It doesn't matter what day it is.
Most people have been home in their sweatpants for however many months.
Yeah.
Here's Cassidy Stewart for Towson to anchor on beam.
Another freshman in the lineup. I think it's important to note that this team is very young. Most of the lineup is made up of freshmen and sophomores, and that's not an easy thing to do. Another difficult triple series.
So unfortunately, counting a fall on bars, now counting a fall on beam.
I know this is definitely not what the Tigers want tonight, but sometimes you just need to have a bad meet, get it out of the way early, like you said earlier. They want to peak at the end. So this might not be their best night, but I guarantee it's going to light a fire, and they're going to get back to work in the gym and work for the rest of the season. And finish up with a round off 1.5. A little side hop, but again, this is such a young team. They're going to keep working. They're going to just build their confidence one routine after another.
Zoe, you talk about getting it out of your system now. I think one of the most important things you can talk about is having a short memory on this type of a sport where you're judged rather than having, you think of lacrosse, football, basketball, where there's hard statistics.
Right.
Gymnastics is in a league of its own because you have people judging what you're doing, how well you do each day, whether you think you did as well as you did, whether you end up doing as well as you thought. Having a short memory is always really important, and the Tigers have a meet coming up on Sunday down at William & Mary.
Yeah.
That's when you really know, okay, how short is this team's memory? Can they move on from tonight, which, isn't as good as they wanted, obviously having to count a fall in now 2 different events. What will they do and how they respond is really what's going to show what this team is made of in the future.
And it looks like we're going to have an exhibition on beam, too, from another freshman, which again just shows how deep this team is. They have routines that they can throw in and take out of lineups, it's just great because that means the athletes are competing for their spot every week, and that's what you want.
Yeah. And while we're waiting for this to start, I just want to say hi to Judy Newtstadt. She is actually one of Coach George McGinty's gymnasts joining in tonight. Hi, Judy. And that's one of the things I love about this program is it's such a family. This is going back to the 60s that they are still involved with the program, want to be a part of it, want to support the team. I always say one of the reasons I like to come back and give back is to honor my coach and the legacy that we built and support these young ladies now and hope they understand the importance of the history of the program.
I always enjoy the alumni meet each year because I just get to see how many alumni really just love this program. They come back. It doesn't matter where they live.
Nope.
When they competed, they always come back.
We come back strong, yes.
So this is Giroux exhibitioning for Towson.
Another triple flight. Beautifully done. Sarah is another freshman, so the more exhibitions she gets to do, the more experience she gets, the more confidence she gets, and the better the lineup gets. Yep. That's just how it works. And a nice dismount to finish. She should be very happy with that.
Yeah.
That's going to be a routine that will be in the lineup at some point in the near future. I can imagine that.
Well, it's definitely going to make practice interesting this week, for sure.
Absolutely. And we think you ride the hot hand, okay, who's going to have the better practices, who's going to end up performing better. Having a performance like that in just an exhibition is really important because you think you practice, but there is no real experience like meet experience.
Yeah.
When you're actually performing in front of real judges instead of just your teammates and your coaches, it's a different feeling, especially
Well,
even just from the practice gym to CQ.
Yeah, and when you're put under pressure like this, you already know that you are counting a fall in one event. Now you're counting a fall in 2 events. So floor is really going to show us what they're made of today. And I really hope that these ladies, like you were saying, have that short memory. They have beautiful floor, and I hope they go out tonight and show everybody.
Well, we're through 3 rotations here from CQ Arena. We're heading to our final one coming up next.
Hey Tiger fans, our final rotation is the floor exercise. Floor is an opportunity to show our individual personalities combining dance elements with exciting tumbling and acrobats. We are required to have at least 2 tumbling passes, and each routine will last no longer than 90 seconds. We have to pay attention to the mat boundaries. If we step out of bounds or are out of sync with the music, deductions will be taken from the overall score. Fans, this is your chance to really get behind us. We love putting on a show for you. When you hear the tiger roar sound, you know we are about to start our routine. Even from home, clap along with the music and dance in your seat. Each of us has a special TU in our routine, so keep an eye out for that. Hope you are ready to be entertained. Let's go Tigers!
And a thank you to Nikki Borkowski with the explainers saying where Towson will be on this rotation. The Tigers finishing up on floor. UNC will be on vault, LIU on bars, Pitt on beam. LIU currently in first place tonight with a 146.725. Pitt in second place with a 145.15. Towson in third, a 144.925, and then LIU next up with a 140.6. So we'll start off on the floor with Towson. This is going to be Lauren Bolin leading off yet again.
Lauren opens with a double tuck, and again, these are just some very weird mistakes they're making tonight. Landed fine, but his knees kind of buckled. I'm sure she's just as confused as we are right now. Front layout, 1.5 twist. That's a beautiful tumbling pass, very difficult. Finishing with a front layout to a front full. So again, just another uncharacteristic mistake from Lauren Bolin on her first pass.
What's interesting about this season is a lot of teams started at different weeks. So I believe Towson is on their 6th or 7th week of competition. But for a team like GW last weekend, that was their first meet.
Exactly.
So, I mean, Towson's getting to the midpoint of the season, so I have to imagine that they're getting a little tired, and it's hard to compete week after week and do this kind of gymnastics every single day.
Yeah.
Zoe, you mentioned earlier about just the constant need to train. That eventually wears on a gymnast. I mean, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
You think about what, it's interesting that I'm going to make this comparison, but you think of what a football player goes through. They can't hit every day, or else it starts to weigh on them.
Yeah.
Gymnasts go every day, and they're expected to compete with the same intensity on day 1 as day 100.
Yep.
And it's just not something that most gymnasts are physically able to do just because of how taxing this sport is.
Exactly. And it's also mentally exhausting.
Yeah.
You have to be on your mental game every single day, and that takes a lot out of you. And especially with a team like this, you're fighting for your lineup spot day after day, and that's hard to do.
And then on top of that, you're going to school, you're dealing with COVID.
Exactly.
Everything, you've had to rearrange how everything is done in your life. You can't see family or friends because they have to stay in their little bubble. So honestly, hats off to every single gymnast and coach here tonight. Another beautiful front layout into a front Rudy. Nice extension on those leaps.
I'm going to give Amy some major credit. Going through a torn Achilles last year and then essentially doing all of her rehab by herself without her teammates, and that is something that is extremely difficult to do.
She had a beautiful double tuck on that pass, second pass there. Beautiful floor routine from Amy. She's another gymnast I feel like just has one of the best attitudes. She just always seems to want to go out there and do her best. She has beautiful form. She's a pretty gymnast to watch.
Amy's one of those people who never has a bad attitude in the gym. You can always expect Amy to have a smile on her face, no matter what the circumstances.
I think it's because she's used to being a part of a team. She's one of 11 siblings. So, you know, it's probably easier for her to adjust to coming to college life and being a part of a team like this.
Looks like we're finishing up a routine on beam for Pittsburgh. Nice front punch full off of the end of the beam. Slight hop up on the dismount though.
I did notice a really impressive save on the beam at one point. I mean, she was pretty much off that thing, but was somehow able to stay up. That was the dismount from the bars for LIU. We've seen some pretty interesting skill sets from the Sharks tonight. It's been really impressive to look back at some of this old school stuff that they're competing tonight. They're back over the floor now. This is Jenna Wheats.
Opening with a punch front to double tuck. Great landing on that.
Jenna's always so fun to watch on the
I know.
floor.
What I love about her, I said this at the last meet, is her quiet confidence. You can tell she's a really strong competitor. Finishes with a double tuck. A little straight-legged on the landing, had a little hop there. I'm sorry, double pike. And even though she's a shorter gymnast, like her leaps and jumps have like beautiful extension, almost like she has these really long legs, even though she's a short gymnast, which most are. So
I know
that
she's
is
listed
not
at
uncommon.
4'11",
Yeah.
but
She's definitely on the shorter side.
she
of
certainly
the short
doesn't
gym.
compete like someone who's
She
4'11".
does not at all.
Heading over to beam.
Nice save.
Yeah. That will be counted as a fall, but anytime you stay on the beam, I give you much props. If I was a judge, I'd give you a little something extra for that.
She certainly sold it like she meant to do that, that's for sure.
Hey. Emerson did something similar in the first home meet, and I'm like, you know, that could just be a new skill. We can call it the Hurst.
Nikki Borkowski getting set on floor for the Tigers.
Nikki, being one of 2 juniors on the team, has really stepped up and become a really big leader for this program.
Really nice high double tuck. And this routine was choreographed by former assistant coach Linda Filbert and was done almost completely over Zoom, I believe, or FaceTime, because they couldn't be in the same room together while she learned the routine. Finishes with a double pike, and that is what we call a stuck landing, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Nikki has had such an impressive season thus far, and as Zoe had said, really has taken a leadership role on this team.
UNC has finished on vault, so they've concluded tonight's meet. We're just going to wait as their scores get finalized. Other 3 teams still competing now, though.
Looks like we're going to be welcoming Paige back into the floor lineup. Fun fact about Paige is her mom was actually a college gymnast at Iowa State.
Wow.
Taking a look again at one of the UNC vaults here.
We've got a Yurchenko full and then tucked position. Really nice height off of the vaulting table.
That was indicative of really every one of the vaults from UNC. I got a chance to take a look while we were on some of the other events, and it was just impressive. It was stuck landing, stuck landing, stuck landing, and they all looked really clean. So as Zoe mentioned, we are back onto Paige Casper, who's back in the lineup tonight, was out last week.
Double pike. Just telling everyone to bring it on.
Paige is a fighter. She will not let anything get in her way of getting back into this lineup.
Front layout from full. Finishes with a double tuck. Beautiful. She almost walked into that. Love it.
Paige is going to be happy with that
Yeah,
one.
welcome back to the lineup, Paige. Great job.
You said she almost walked into it. I think that just shows how seamlessly easy she makes it
Yeah.
look. I mean, she's got this routine down. It looks like Lauren Beckwith will be up for Pittsburgh, their anchor tonight on beam. They will have an exhibition as well. Awaiting Towson's anchor on the floor here, as well as LIU to go on bars.
Front layout, front full. Did step out of bounds, so that will be a 10th deduction after they score the routine. Double tug. A nice 14 from Cami Vitov. And that finishes the Tigers on floor tonight.
So we'll go over to Olivia Miller on Pittsburgh exhibitioning.
And I feel like floor is the event that is most affected by not having spectators here, especially for the home team. It's your last event. It's the event that takes the most endurance, and having that extra cheer from the crowd, that energy that you feel coming from the stands helps. And I mean, I even feel it towards the end of the broadcast that my energy is starting to get a little low, and I think, you know, that's where we definitely miss our in-person fans. We are so happy for everyone that is tuning in and watching, but we miss you guys.
It's been so noticeable. I've been here at every meet, obviously not on the broadcast, where, you know, taking over for Ben tonight, but Ben and I have noted to each other, we're like, wow, it just feels so different without fans. And I've talked to athletes on different teams, whether it's on Towson's teams or on some other teams, and I've talked to some other professionals in the industry, and they've all felt the same, that it's just tough. That, you know, you think about it, you've competed in front of your whole life, in front of fans, even if it's just parents at the Pee Wee level. There's somebody there to cheer you on.
Yeah.
And now the only people you have are the ones that are in the same leotard as you.
Yeah. And our cardboard fans, don't forget about them. They're very quiet, though.
As good as the cardboard fans are, you said it well. You said it perfectly. We miss you all. Hopefully next year we'll be able to welcome you back into CQ, and I'm sure it'll be a nice, fun party to welcome everybody back.
It should be a party. The first meet back with fans, we should have a party. I'm going to plan that right now. Thanks, Brandon. It's a great idea.
Glad I could offer that up.
Zoe and I are going to work on that.
Sounds good to me.
Good routine in the works here by Miller.
She's going to be happy with that exhibition.
Yeah. Whoop, mask on first before the celebration. There we go. And I just want to say hi to my mom. She's watching, and she loves to critique during the broadcast. Hi, Mom.
So that will do it for our official competition here tonight. We'll step aside as we tabulate the final scores. And then I've got an announcement to make regarding the winner of the George McGinty Alumni Award for year number 2. We'll have that in just a moment. So we're in the process of giving out the award for the George McGinty Alumni Award for year number 2. Coach McGinty was the inaugural head coach for the Towson University gymnastics team. He was around for 14 years before he left the program. He took the team to a Division II national championship in the 1968 to 1969 season. The George McGinty Alumni Award honors Coach McGinty's memory. It is given to a current athlete on the team, and really the team couldn't think of anybody better this year to give the award to than junior Nikki Borkowski. Zoe, you were talking about her off of the broadcast about just what an impact she's made to this program.
Nikki really has an infectious spirit. She comes in every single day with a smile on her face, always dancing around the gym, always cheering up other people. She's just one of those athletes and one of those teammates that you can just rely on at all times.
It's funny, Jay Ramirez sent us a little write-up before the day, and the part that I just find to be humorous, he says, the gymnast who receives the George McGinty Award should be the kind of gymnast who knows how to play nice in the sandbox. And that really does just emulate from Nikki all the time.
Yeah.
And the award really goes beyond what kind of gymnast she is, too. It's the person you are, the teammate you are, what you do in and outside of the gym, in the classroom. And Nikki just embodies all of that, and she's completely deserving of this award. I'm very proud of her.
And several of George McGinty's gymnasts are watching tonight. We've given shout outs earlier, but we just want to thank those ladies for, being the beginning of this program and taking it to a place where, and then handing it off to the next group that then would take it to the next place, and so on and so on. And I love that they started this award last year with Zoe winning and now honoring Nikki, and I'm looking forward in years to come to see this tradition continue with honoring George's memory.
We talk about what George meant to the program. I mean, you think about what his teams did. Coach Filbert doesn't have the ability to take that platform and raise it as high as he does without what Coach McGinty did.
Exactly. Without George McGinty, there is no Towson gymnastics. And, it's what he accomplished at that time where women weren't even competing in a lot of sports in the 60s. It was hard for them to do that. There was no money for women's sports. And even up until the year before he passed away, he was still coming out to competitions and cheering on this team. And that's just how dedicated he was to this program and how dedicated a lot of his gymnasts are to this program. And that's what contributes to the strength. When you're a smaller school like this, and especially a sport like gymnastics, there's always a chance this program could get cut, but the alumni have always banded together to make sure that the legacy of this program continues on and the history of it is celebrated. And, I really love what Jay and Ashley are doing with the program now, and these ladies are going out there and really honoring all of the coaches and previous gymnasts with how well they're doing over these past 2 seasons.
You're using a couple of buzzwords that I love hearing about this program, history.
Yeah.
And just how connected this team is from year 1 to now where we are today. It's just amazing to see that kind of tie between the original team, the 1967-68 team, and now the 2020 2021 team. It's unbelievable to see just the bond between the gymnasts from point A to point B and everywhere in between.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of programs have that. I have gymnast friends from other colleges, and they talk about that all the time, how Towson does have such a supportive alumni and is such a family, and they didn't have that with their programs, and they love that about this program. And I think that makes us special.
Zoe, I'm sure you've seen it as well.
Of course. It's so special to be a part of a program that has such great history to it. I know, just quick shout out to the 3 other recent alumni, Allie, Liv, and Melissa. I hope you guys are watching. We miss you here. Hopefully someday we'll all be back together. And I just think it's important as recent alumni and even years before me, just to keep in touch, keep joining our live streams and come in person next year. The history and the relationships all the alumni have is so important, and even to Jay and Ashley and the current team, they love when we have support from all of the alumni, so we really appreciate everything, and hopefully next year at the Alumni Night we'll all be here together.
Partying.
I think something that just came to mind about just the tie that the teams have, there's one constant here that we're forgetting, and it's Jay Ramirez. He's been around for so many different teams, and I get he's only been the head coach, this is his 2nd year, but this isn't his first stop at Towson.
No.
So he knows some of the older gymnasts and is able to bridge that tie between some of the older teams and the current teams to show, like, hey, this is where you came from. This is what we have rooting for us and rooting with us. Let's use it.
Exactly. And that's what's so important to this program. Obviously, I wasn't coached by George McGinty, but I can speak on behalf of Coach Filbert and just what he instilled in us and the importance of this program and to be a family. And Jay did have what I will say is the good fortune to work under Coach Filbert for a season. And I think he draws on that and recognizes the importance and that lesson that Coach Filbert taught and has brought it to the team that he is now in charge of. So I hope to continue to see these younger alum join in. And they joke with us because we have an alumni Facebook page, and we know Facebook is for old people, but we need the younger alumni to join it for now until we can kind of get caught up with the social media times here. It's the best way that we share a lot of information, support each other, and it's a wonderful network of women, you know, that support each other outside of the gym as well.
So our final scores, I believe, have come in. Tonight, the winner will be the University of North Carolina with a 195 flat. Coming in second is the University of Pittsburgh at a 193.925, followed up by Towson University with a 193.7, and then LIU rounding it off with a 188.075. We know that this wasn't the best night Towson has had in a while.
I mean, this is not the way we wanted to follow up last week's meet. We counted 2 falls, but again, moments of brilliance here. The scoring also was a little low tonight all the way around. So that is no fault of the gymnasts there. Sometimes there's just nights where the judges are scoring low, and the same routine in a different competition would have gone a tenth or 2 higher. So you have no control over that. And I hope, and Zoe said this earlier, that this motivates these ladies to get back in the gym, figure out what went wrong, put it behind them, and keep moving forward.
Leaders for the events tonight, Cami Vitov taken first on the vault with a 9.85. Katrina Coco from Pitt at the number 1 spot on the bars with a 9.9. Liz Colton from UNC on the beam with a 9.925. Candy, I know we were talking that we thought that may have been a little low even for that routine.
Yeah, I mean, again, as I said, I think the scores all the way around tonight on every event were lower than what we usually see.
And the number 1 spot on the floor goes to Towson's own Nikki Borkowski with a 9.85. So while we didn't see the best night from the Tigers, there were still, as you mentioned, flashes of brilliance. Tigers taking the top spot in 2 of the 4 events. They had a couple of gymnasts performing in the all-around as well. That, by the way, was won by Liz Colton from UNC with a final score of 39.275. And up until that last rotation, before some of the scores were formally tabulated, she was leading in 3 of the 4 events, and
Yeah.
the only reason she wasn't leading in the 4th is because UNC hadn't gone on the vault
the 4th
yet.
event, yeah. No, UNC is a very talented team, also with a younger head coach. She's only been the head coach for a couple seasons. She was, I believe, the assistant coach prior, so she was able to take over a program that she was already familiar with, and she's done a phenomenal job with it. UNC looks very strong, #1 in Eagle right now as of last week's standings, and she should be very proud of what her ladies did tonight. And again, I would just like to give a shout out to LIU. I mean, when you look at the score, maybe not impressive, but I don't think they should be worried about scores at all this season. I think they should be just working on building that team chemistry and just getting the experience. I was very impressed with their difficulty, their creativity, and I think they're going to be a team to really watch out for within the next 2 to 3 years.
You mentioned UNC. They're currently ranked 24th in Division I, so impressive enough off the bat.
Yeah.
And as crazy as it might sound to some of our viewers, this was an off night for them. They're averaging a full quarter point better than what they scored tonight, and their high score of the year is more than a half point better than this. So we may not have seen the best from UNC tonight either. That makes it a lot of fun going into the latter parts of the season, knowing, okay, we're going to get some really stiff competition from everywhere, especially the members of our own division. Yeah,
I mean, I think when you get down to the conference championship in the postseason, as long as all the teams are healthy, it is going to be a battle to the finish. It is going to be who stuck more landings. It's going to be separated by a tenth, a half a tenth. There are so many talented teams in this conference, and on any given day, any of them, could really step up and win a competition.
You think about it, Towson, as of right now, when you look at the overall picture, Towson has had the #1 score in Eagle. That was what they got last Friday night against GW, but right now UNC is the #1 team based off of averages. So it's going to be interesting as we move forward to see, okay, what does Towson do the rest of the way? How about UNC, NC State, which are the 2 teams currently ahead of Towson in the standings? And then you look at the other schools like Temple, UNH, Pitt, GW, even LIU. What do they do as we move forward to say, okay, now we're really peaking as we get to the conference championship?
Right. Well, and as Zoe mentioned earlier, GW last week was their first meet. They haven't even had a chance to get an average score yet. Their average score is their only score. Because this season is just so different than any other. And Towson has had the luxury of kind of starting the season when it usually does and being at a midway point right now, where some other teams are literally at the beginning of their season. So, again, it's a matter of staying healthy and COVID-free, hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Hopefully no huge weather emergencies that might cancel a meet here or there, but gymnastics is a score of averages in order to get into the postseason. So a meet like this, we're going to toss, and that's okay. You have that one bad meet, get it out of there. And, from here on out, I would like to see the ladies at, high 194s and 195s plus to keep their average up. And I think that'll set them up nicely for the postseason.
Well, that will do it for us here tonight from CQ Arena. The Tigers back in action on Sunday afternoon down in Williamsburg against the William and Mary Tribe. Towson will not be back here at home until early March. Got 4 more meets. And then on March 12th, on the evening, that meet was just added recently. It is Pride Night here against GW. And we will be back for you with full coverage of that. Stay up to date with everything Towson Gymnastics on TowsonTigers.com. And for Zoe Packard, Tandy Knight, I'm Brandon Sachs. It's been nice having you all join us tonight. We can't wait to see you back here, hopefully soon. And we will see you on March 12th.